Wait, before I start my speech, can I just say I want to congratulate Avi from my team. This is his first break in a debate tournament and also his first grand final. And he's the team. Now, everyone thought when I tried out for MWS again this year for the 5th time, it was the dumbest thing to do because everyone thought that I would never make it. But the problem was that I found meaning in debating. I found meaning in the possibility of representing my country in a debate tournament or in something that I was passionate about. And that's the meaning that we want individuals to search for on a daily basis. It's not always about the potential happiness that you have to chase after, but it's also acknowledging that the current happiness that you have has value and significance in your life. And that literally means that you exacerbate all the potential happiness that you accrue as of now. 2 arguments for you in this debate. The first, the principal justification as to why people need to decide for themselves the value and meaning in life. And the second, why being forced to live a life without meaning is a disproportionate punishment to many. But before that, several levels of rebuttals to the Prime Minister. The first thing that they wanted to tell us was this whole argument about why life was coercive in nature. And I can agree to a large extent, precisely because life is coercive. You need to be able to extract certain aspects of your life, of your own life, for you to find meaning and for you to find value in the daily things that you do. When they try to tell you about short-term happiness existing under the side of government, I think that's untrue. Because your side, without meaning, is likely to go with the flow as to what people think is the best thing in life. And this is problematic. Because the point in which you recognize that society is always goal-oriented and materialistic-oriented, you can't access those structures if you're trapped in the coercive structures that the Prime Minister wanted to tell you. You're unlikely to obtain your short-term happiness because society tells you that's not a greater good. The short-term gratification, assuming that it's a benefit, as side government wants to say, we'll say is more likely to happen under our side because you will place meaning and value in those choices when you make choices to opt in to those short-term gratification, denying and not conforming to what society thinks is the best long-term goal in your own life. Secondly, they conveniently try to tell you that people without meaning, the people that want meaning will actively still search for it. Literally, if you do not want if you regret the idea that people oftentimes try or strive to find meaning, it also means that you regret them trying in the first place and you wouldn't want them to search for meaning in essence. Let's not let them get away with that form of characterization. But also, the point at which you do not actively try to search for meaning is when you will just go with the flow. And this means conforming to what society thinks is the large end goal of your very life. And this is oftentimes harmful because you will find meaning under our side of the house. Maybe you will still conform, but you find meaning in carrying on with your daily lives. You find meaning in the fact that every day you got out of bed, despite how hard your job is, and despite how harsh the circumstance is against you. But also, they try to confine us into this idea of what meaning is and how it's very hard to attain. Guys, this is not materialistic every single time. Meaning is very subjective to individuals. This means certain people can find meaning in money, certain people can find it in materialistic things, but under our side of the house, we have people who find meaning in the daily activities that they do. This can be reading a book, this can be going to class, this can be talking to your friends or going out with them on an outing. And these are all things that you can exclusively get under the side of opposition when you have the incentive to pursue these forms of meaning and these forms of happiness in life itself. But also, they want, the rest of my rebuttals will be integrated. So on the first argument, what's the principal justification as to why people need to decide for themselves the value and inherent meaning in life? So why do people need motivation? It's precisely because life is extremely unfair, and the significance that you make in life are oftentimes dictated by the people that are most powerful. This means you need the ability and autonomy to make the choice on what is valuable in your life and what is significant in the daily choices that you make. The ability for you to decide for yourself what happiness means and what meaning can mean in your life is a form of empowerment, because despite despite the fact that you're not living in ideal circumstances, you can deal with consequences because you believe that there are certain aspects of your life that have inherent meaning and value to you. In absence of meaning, which is the world of side of government in this debate, society is likely to take control of the narrative of what the end goal of life is. And I'll further illustrate this now. On my second argument, no thank you. What does being forced to live a life without meaning look like? We think it's a disproportionate punishment. Who are the people that don't need meaning in their lives? Because side of government wanted to conveniently say, oh, these are the people that can search for it if they want to. No thank you. We'll say the people who are content under your side of house are oftentimes the most privileged of individuals with AirPods. We'll say these are the people who are oftentimes the most validated by society because what they're currently pursuing is the norm, and what they're currently doing is the correct standard of what happiness should be. You can't afford to make a lot of trade-offs because your life is great. You're probably doing well in school. You're probably getting your dream job. And these are all things that people value in society. The point in which you have the ability and the capacity to take control of your own life and to see that maybe my current failure isn't the fact that I don't have meaning in my life, isn't the fact that society wants to tell me that I don't have any form of happiness in my life. When every day is a living hell, the ability for you to find meaning places values in your everyday actions in life. It gives you the authority and control over your own form of happiness, and that form of ability to place that form of meaning itself, regardless not that thing is meaningful in essence, already means that you empower the choices in which people can make and the value in which they place everyday life to look like. Maybe I didn't see my dad for like that long, okay? But the thing is, I know that I place meaning in the fact that he's doing it because for the betterment of my family. He's doing it for the betterment of a better life for us. But secondly, the form of compensation that I currently have is the most empowering thing that I can possibly have now. The choice that my father made, the fact that I can place meaning in the choices that he makes, despite the fact that I'm unhappy about it, is the fact that I can see it to be the most empowering choice possible, because it means that to individuals on the ground, it's not the best choice, but for me, I can look back and say that's the most meaningful thing that an individual can do for me. And that form of inherent ability for you to place meaning in your life is what inherently drives people to move on.
If it's true that Ops characterization is the world is materialistic, it enforces individuals to want as much and try to get as much as they possibly can, then Daphne can come up and tell us that the very standards they set and the very expectations they place upon what true meaning is in your life are those of very minute and small circumstances. Maybe it's true that in some circumstances this can be right, but in the majority of circumstances, this isn't what the world is striving for when you tell them that they must find meaning in life. There's a difference between enjoyment and short-term fun in comparison to the meaning you get at the point you try to strive to be a billionaire and you get that in the long term. Panel, we don't think it's justified in a world in which it's dictated by an arbitrary birth lottery, where there's some individuals born poor, born African-American, born into structural barriers of oppression, to try to force themselves to face such levels of harms when the comparative is, at the very least, they can find short-term happiness, they can smoke, they can relieve stress, and at least be happy with what they have every single moment of their life. That is the world in which government defends. You have to come up here, Iman, and defend this world. Do not escape your burden. Do not try to run a convenient case. I have two main argumentations in this debate. The first, do we actually have how the narrative inherently bars vulnerable minorities from accessing alternative forms of happiness? And the second, is your form of meaning what is inherently beneficial and is able to be accessed by a majority of individuals? The first thing I want to do is a few numbers of responses against Daphne's case, right? The first thing, Do we have a motivation to seek happiness? There's a distinction here. We don't want motivation, because motivation literally means that what you have in front of you right now isn't enough. That even though you can smoke weed right now, that shouldn't be what you strive to seek for. But it doesn't mean we don't want individuals to feel happy. Because if what feeling happy means that even though you're born in a slum area, being able to smoke weed at the corner of the road is not inherently beneficial to you, but can relieve that form of stress, can alleviate the fact that you're being oppressed and discriminated. That's inherently a world in which we would prefer. Second, I think the nuance as to why the motivation is inherently bad is threefold. The first is perpetual in nature. Every single time you tell yourself you're trying to find meaning, the higher you climb, the more comparatives and the more examples you see, the greater standards you set come from the fact that you're higher and you see greater standards in which you can try to achieve. That's a problematic world, because in your world, your happiness is never going to be achieved because you're constantly exposed towards alternative forms which you think are superior. You don't inherently get gratification or satisfaction within yourself because you don't appreciate what you've already strived to do. Before I move on, show that.
The point is that you recognize that you first have a goal and you reach that goal. The form of content that you can get from achieving that goal of itself and you place meaning on it is severely more, especially when you want to chase for even more contentment.
The first, Maya told you why that goal is very hard to achieve. I heard no response from Daphne on this issue. I don't see how they inherently just assume that your 7 billion population can suddenly achieve this benefit. But the second, I just told you that it's perpetual. Just because that's the original goal you set doesn't mean you're content with that goal at the point you're exposed to superior forms of goals the higher you climb in the social ladder. The second, notice the standard of expectation is already very, very high the point in time you set a goal. With your characterization of the current materialistic world, I don't think your goal is to find meaning in doing some activities, but rather it's looking at people you know, the rich friends you know of airports, and that is the world which you set their expectations for. You would be like, I want to get that in the future. I want to get a MacBook in the future. And of standards in which you set on your side of the house. Inherently understand that those standards are very high and hard to achieve. You are unlikely to be able to seek happiness from this either way. The second thing I respond to is the idea of how convenient Opcase really is, right? Note that in the Daphne speech, they flip-flop from the stances they had. At first, she was like, oh, as a person who debated for who was able to go to Team Malaysia, I find meaning in being able to do something so great. But then their case flip towards I find meaning in really small stuff. They have to pick one and choose, because inherently you are unable to achieve both in this world, noting that if you set very low standards what meaning is, you are inherently defining hours and house. You don't go through the struggle which you think is so important to find happiness in life. First argumentation of this debate, how the narrative inherently bars vulnerable minorities from accessing alternative forms of happiness. The first level, I think it's principally unjustified to coerce minorities to opt for pursuing your long-term meaning in life. The first thing, you never consented to be born as a minority, right? You never consented to being born as a minority, whereas the comparative of the person who was born in the very same day as you could be a privileged white individual. They don't face the structural levels of oppression in which you do. Why is it that you're forced to challenge these levels of oppression? Have a seat. Second, you also never consented to having to face levels of oppression, discrimination against you that actively bars you from success. But no, the nuance here is that you're continuously by it, you're continuously being disappointed at every single point in time when you're denied access to a job. You're given a difference between your wage. There's an inherent form of unhappiness in the short term. You never feel satisfied, and you always tell yourself that maybe I can do better, but the world is against me. That means your ability to feel happy in the short period of time which you're trying to pursue that meaning is one that's inherently impaired from the very get-go. Second level of argumentation, we reject the idea that humans cannot find some form of satisfaction and happiness in their life in a world in which it's short-term happiness. These alternatives looks like having hook-up culture, for example, smoking, or simply doing drugs. The reason why these alternatives are far more preferred in our world is the accessibility towards these standards of happiness is extremely low, which means a large majority of individuals are able to access these forms of happiness and be happy by doing these things from the very get-go. The third level, right? We don't think these ideas of short-term happiness are objectively bad either way. Panel, note that even if you agree that drugs impair your health, we don't see inherent meaning in people trying to pursue great things in life when you don't even know when you could die. You could be hit by a car the next day. You could face terminal diseases in a month. Note, if you're trying to pursue such high levels of meaning as well. The amount of work and stress you put on yourself in the short term, we will work OT, will stress your kidneys and stress your organs. We know also that increases the inherent rate of having terminal diseases, which also impairs the ability to feel happy in the long run. If this means that it is very unlikely that we're all able to estimate how long we will live, thereby, in a short period of time which are able to live, we think that inherent nuance means you should be able to enjoy every single moment of it without stress, the way in which you want it to be. This means our alternative forms of happiness are far more accessible and will be far more efficacious, have a high efficacy in providing individuals what they want. But the nuance why we regret the idea is that inherently your idea bars individuals from accessing this when large levels of coercion tells people that these are alternative forms of happiness just subpar towards your idea of finding internal meaning that's large and huge. Panel, in this debate, I think there are a lot of individuals that cannot access the forms of meaning in life in which society enforces upon us. For these individuals, I think we should be able to, at the very least, decide on our own how we want to derive meaning and how we want to derive happiness and how we want to live our lives. Give ourselves the autonomy to do so, side with side proposition. We are very proud of this.
Hello. Oh, okay. Hi. Events that happen in your daily life, like getting rejected from a job or not being able to fulfill every single thing you want, are things which cannot be changed. These events have already happened. What we can change is the way in which people perceive these events and choose to move forward and actually live with those decisions. In my speech, I will prove to you why personal happiness is one that is irreplaceable, especially for minorities and individuals who need this form of happiness most. Most of my rebuttals will be integrated. There's kind of three things that don't fit in, right? So firstly, Wian said in his speech that they don't want motivation, but at the same time, they want people to be happy. I think there needs to be a clarification as to what your decision-making process actually look like. Because if anything, we are often driven by motivation, and that is why we make certain choices. So I chose to come here, although it's really damn difficult. I had an interview on Friday. I still chose to come here because I'm motivated to help Avi grow as well. And debate in this tournament, shout out, okay. So I think these are motivations which play a big part into why people make certain decisions. If you do not have that motivation, that means you do not get the satisfaction, the point in which you fulfill those decisions. How do you get happiness in the world of government? I don't see any benefits materializing in their world. Secondly, we have also said that we cannot have high and low standards of happiness, and apparently that is problematic and affects our end goal. So why? I think it's the definition, literally, the definition of having some people with high standards, some people with low standards, proves that life is subjective, and the way in which you choose to interpret things depends on your own personal beliefs and your own personal motivations. I don't think arguing there are high and low standards and it's not standardized is something that is bad. But I think if you argue this, it means that you support a world where you standardize what happiness means, where you standardize what meaning in life means. And what does that actually look like? Their Prime Minister didn't tell us, their second speaker didn't tell us, so we assume there is a world that is materialistic. We assume in a conservative society, this means being happy means being religious. And I think you force people to conform to those ideas of happiness, and you force people to defend those very ideologies. I think that is horrible to begin with. Thirdly, he also said that there's no point to chase high achievements because it's very a lot of sacrifices. You'll be damn sad if you fail. So I think you cannot assume that sacrifices is inherently a bad thing. If anything, the side of opposition allows people to choose and prioritize what values they want most. So this means working overtime will probably be really sucky because you work overtime, you cannot see your family a lot, but the reasons in which you do those things is so that your family can live a better life, so that your child is more comfortable, gets better education, for example. And these motivations make those sacrifices worth it rather than demanding or difficult, and that is what the government is complaining with. We don't think sacrifices are always bad. If anything, it's easier for people to get through these tough situations because they are driven by their family and these sort of motivations which only exist in the world of opposition. When we tell people you can decide what you want to be happy, you find meaning in your own life. So, in my argument, why personal happiness is irreplaceable, especially for minorities. In absence of personal interpretations, the side of government does not encourage people to find any form of meaning in your life. So if you don't encourage people to find meaning, what does this mean? This means you encourage people to follow what majority of people already believe in and the majority's perception of happiness. We recognize the comparative. So yes, in status quo, the strongest narrative will definitely be one which people may be kind of forced into following. Maybe people are kind of forced to be materialistic in our world. But I think in the world of opposition, the difference is there is room for you to change. There is room for you to diverge and find your own path, find your own meaning of happiness, and that is unique to our side, right? But what does this world of government then look like? Let me just paint it for them. So in conservative societies, this means religion should be number one. In a materialistic world, getting a high-paying job should be the true meaning of life, right? I think that is harmful towards two groups of individuals in particular. Firstly, people who don't choose to conform. So in the world of government, you force individuals who don't really put religion as number one. You force them to be religious. You force them to go to the mosque and pray 5 times a day, which may sound good to the majority of individuals, but on a personal level, this person doesn't believe in those values. This person attains no happiness whatsoever. The only reason why they're doing these actions and the purpose of their life is now to fulfill other people's intentions and the majority's standards of a good life, right? So government must now prove, the last speaker, they must prove why it's important, why it's justified for other people who have nothing to do with your life to determine for you and force you to live with those decisions. Maybe we have influence in our world, but I think yours is a lot more and you block any form of that changing. Secondly, people who are structurally disadvantaged. Yeah, okay.
So there's a difference in having fun and achieving that deep meaning. If I want to smoke, drink, and sleep all day, and that gives me happiness, why must I strive for that meaning which I can't achieve?
Just because meaning in life sounds like something super deep, it doesn't mean it cannot be something simplistic like drinking. So just because drinking is seen as something like, oh, you're just swallowing alcohol or something, it may seem simple, but to some people, these are things which bring maximum amount of happiness. The same level of happiness that someone attains from being a doctor, for example, right? That freedom in life is something which is important to give because you cannot set a standard as to how happy someone will be just because you don't think that action is one which is big enough or good enough. I think you're forcing people to follow your standards, that's bad. Have a seat. So, second group of people who are structurally disadvantaged. So if you're in a society which is materialistic in nature, this means you force more individuals to work towards getting high-paying jobs, towards earning more money. And for some individuals, this is something that is difficult. If you're born poor, and this is an argument which came in that speech, I think there's a lot of responses coming from that. Have a seat, I'm not thinking anyone, so almost say speech. So, in their world, these are people who are forced to be poor because of the birth lottery, and you also need to deal with things like microaggression, like negative perceptions from individuals around you, and just generally live a very uncomfortable life. In their world, you would force these individuals to try and become a doctor. You tell me, how will this poor individual, who has little to no access to everything that this rich, privileged kid would have, how would they become a doctor compared to the other person? It's easy for you to say the privileged person should be happy in being a doctor. But for this poor person, I think it's important for them to get happiness in their their relationship with their family, the interactions with their friends, prioritizing their social circles. Because for some individuals who are minorities and have little to no control over their life, this is some form of control into finding meaning of their life. And I think that is important. What is it compared? Maybe in our world, they will still fail in chasing for an end goal. But I think the difference is we encourage people to determine for themselves what the end goal in life is. So even if they fail in our side, I think on a comparative, less people will fail compared to theirs because you don't force everyone to follow the same standard, the same end goal. But I think in our world, the unique thing which we haven't responded to whatsoever is the fact that we make people appreciate what they have and find meaning in what they already have in today's debate. I think that is something which is unique to individuals who truly need it. It's about time government listen to the voices.
A notion is a social standard, a social stigma. A notion is the mechanism that defeats option. And essentially, a notion is not just a notion, but also a coercion. Essentially, there are a few things that we need to notice in this debate. At the point of which you start to find meaning, it now means that people must attain that meaning or must have a meaning in the first place in order for you to have a decent life, or in order for it to be a normal life for you in the first place. That is a norm, a notion that you set. We'll show you why that meaning isn't a self-determined meaning. So the first question, is there a confirmable outcome? We tell you that, number one, working hard isn't a direct mathematical outcome that will produce you a result. It doesn't confirm you an outcome that you will want. There are a few factors to which this is true. Number one, we tell you that there are people who have the circumstance of which they have bird lotteries, or which when you want to apply for a scholarship, when you have contacts, you are even more likely to get that scholarship. Or also in businesses, when it involves luck, and essentially in relationships, when you just don't look good like me. So eventually you'll just get broken up with like me. So as a whole, right, even if it's likely for you to get a successful outcome, we tell you that it's not an outcome. We tell you that it's not an outcome or a method that are willing to gamble to take in the first place, because we tell you that our alternative is a more credible and more confirmable outcome in order for you to attain that happiness. Because the end goal of this debate is to see who essentially does get that certain form of happiness as a whole. And as long as we prove to you that our people or people on our side are likely to get more happiness, that shows that we win this debate. But the second thing we're going to talk about is, right, the accessibility of the standards being set in the first place. So this debate should be one that is inclusive of a vague group of stakeholders in the first place, right? So they're being very, very convenient in talking about only a few amount of people. So we tell you that minorities generally cannot reach their goals no matter how much they try. Because essentially, these minorities are people who are not equipped with the privileges or equipped with the ability of just working hard and continuing that hard work until they get that goal. Minorities are people who don't have the money for them to pay for tuition in order for them to get Bank Negara scholarships, essentially. As a whole, when you want to compare the socio-economic platform, the likelihood of minorities attaining those goals are even lower compared to people. Meaning, yes, I'm going to buy the bullet. I'm going to tell you that it's almost impossible for people to necessarily attain good outcomes. That is very likely for people to just fail and not have the ability to succeed. Because this is a confirmation, I can tell you, that these goals you're setting right now are goals that are not necessarily very easy goals at all, or satisfactions like reading a book or just like buying a phone or whatsoever. So before I move on to that and explain to you why Daphne's whole explanation of why you can't find meaning from small things is invalid, I'll also explain to you the meaning of life. Yes, D, like I might say, life. A, life isn't a game. I'm telling you that life isn't a game. It isn't a game in which you just complete a few levels or achieve a few things. But B, life is fully determined by the current events. And C, life is determined by the emotions in which you feel in that process. Now, what does this essentially mean? Number one, nothing is calculated, like the first thing that I told you, right? And also, number two, since there is a since there is an involvement of emotions and how there is not necessarily a calculated platform, we tell you that there is a high likelihood of you giving up because you are incapable of attaining whatever you want. There's a high likelihood of you involving these emotions and happenings. Like for instance, if I'm debating right now and I get a call from my mom saying that my dad passed away, the likelihood of me just giving up this entire tournament right now is essentially high. But that's the goal I want. I also want to win. Like Abina, this was my first finals. But that's the comparative that you need to get. Like your goal of attaining that meaning isn't likely to happen anyways, because sometimes you just need to realize that certain goals cannot be achieved. But now, moving on to the Daphne thing that I promised you, right? So Daphne told us that you can find meaning in small things. So firstly, we had already explained to you that it's unfair that meaning can be so simplistic for multiple reasons. We tell you that goals by the majority of people are of far and bigger outcomes. People just don't set goals like, I want to
win like one round in this TUIDC, or like goals like I want to just finish these 2 pages of a book. Essentially, goals are going to be like I want to grow up to be a lawyer, or I want to grow up to be a professional economist, or whatsoever. Like essentially, these goals are goals that you set in the long run, in of which you attain in the future. That's the comparative. But pay attention to this, right? These meanings are contingent, like the meanings that we're talking about are also meanings that are contingent upon the acceptance of society as a whole. Like they say, right, materialism. So here's what materialism actually means. So if I tell you that my goal is to get a girlfriend, and only Daniel and Vihan are the likely people to tell me like, oh, that's a goal that's really good. But look at everyone else in this hall. You're gonna tell me what nonsense, your life goal is to get a girlfriend. Like, don't you have something else to do? Like, look, the goals that you're gonna set, this is the proof of which why people are likely to set goals that are very far or very, very far-fetched, or something that's really in the future, futuristic. Look, as long as we already prove to you why it is a high likelihood of which you're going to set a goal that's really far. But now talk about the poor people also, right, Daphne, like after this. So tell us why the poor people can now somehow attain these goals and now somehow attain the happiness that you promised them. Go, Daphne.
Meaning can be simplistic to you, but it can mean a lot to that individual. Why can't that individual choose to believe a maybe simplistic meaning in order to attain happiness then?
Yeah, you can have that simplistic, like I explained to you, you can have that simplistic meaning towards it. But essentially, when you make it meaning in life, or finding meaning in the things you do, as a whole, it becomes a bigger scale. In which we are looking at things in a very in-depth way. In which we are talking about future, bigger things that you can attain in life. And assuming that you don't achieve those things, that's when you don't get the happiness that you promise on your side. So goals as a motivation as a whole, right? The idea in which setting goals is a motivation. So I'm going to tell you that, yeah, sure, Daphne said that her goal of being in MWS is something that she tried for 5 times and that was successful. But also, right now, I definitely didn't settle down for that after 5 times. After that, she continued to try really, really hard to eventually become in the top 5 in MWS. So her goal expanded to another level. After that, now she wants to beat Daniel in whatever nonsense Daniel is having in the WhatsApp groups. Like, that's another goal that she wants to achieve. And essentially, her biggest goal right now is to make sure that she wins MWS as Malaysia. Yeah, clap for her later. But like, look, there is no end to this. It is a loop, it is a cycle. And these influences in which life gives you is essentially what is going to matter as a whole. That when you grow as a poor person or as an individual as a whole, the fact that you have a goal doesn't just stop at the fact that you have a goal only. It will continue to expand, in which the likelihood of you having that happiness in the very end is not necessarily that true, that you will have that end in which you can just reach and stop and land your feet on. It continues. The fact that you want to get happiness is something that you cannot confer on their side. We tell you, smoking weed right now is something that I want. It is what I do. I get, I'm happy.
The moment at which we tell individuals that they should reject striving for meaning is the moment that you tell them that there's no point in living, there's no point in working hard, there's no point in trying to achieve a goal. Side opposition proposes to you a world where we actually encourage them to achieve whatever meaning that they see fit, no matter what it is. So I've one main issue for you today. That is, on which side is there more fulfillment on a personal level? But before that, rebuttals coming for the side of government. So they said something about how on our side, minorities who already find it very hard to achieve their goals are just worse off on our side. So we don't necessarily agree to this because we concede to the fact that on both sides they find life very difficult and they find it very hard to achieve goals, right? But at least on our side, we give them the motivation to do so, right? So not only does it mean that at least they have the extra push to find a goal, but it also means that they have the motivation to find whatever it is in their life that to appreciate whatever it is that is in their life right now, right? So at least on our side, they actually feel appreciated. They actually feel that sort of happiness. Whereas on the comparative on their side, that their side proposes a world where minorities have nothing to live for because they're already screwed over, and now they want to tell them that they have no hope for living because there's no point anymore. And this is the moment at which the minorities feel absolutely more worse, and this is the moment at which they are completely screwed over. Yes.
So society has standards. Finding meaning is achieving that dream job, doing well, being successful, and feeling passionate. Don't be convenient. It's very difficult for individuals to be content in achieving those meaning in small things. They want to reach up to the standards of meaning.
I think we should let these minorities to decide on what gives them meaning on their own. Whereas on your side, as I'll explain later, that society is the one that sets that form of meaning for them. So moving on to my issue, right? On which side is there more fulfillment on a personal level? So let's just clarify this, the fact that meaning is not a textbook definition, right? It is a very fluid definition that ranges from one small end of the scale to a large end of the scale. And we see everything, it is the people of the right, the rights of the people to choose what gives them meaning, right? We don't think that it's fair for government to come up here and say that only that society, the things that society sets gives them meaning, right? Because the moment at which you give, the moment at which you set your own meaning means that you can achieve what you want, right? So what happens on our side? It means that you can choose what you want to have meaning, right? So this can include things like give you short-term happiness, right? Because I don't understand why you just can't find meaning in the examples that they give. So for example, like sleeping or smoking. So if they choose to find meaning in that, then we don't understand why it's not important. But even if they want to choose goals that are set against them, that when the odds are stacked against them, like getting a professional job and examples like that, we don't understand why we don't give them the motivation to do so, right? Yes.
Don't be convenient. Meaning means being emotionally fulfilled, passionate about it. You don't feel like drinking and smoking and sleeping is fun. There's a difference between fun and meaning. On your way, you make individuals actively find that meaning. You disallow them to find fun.
I don't understand why people can't find meaning in that. Just because because meaning is a very personal thing. If you say that you don't find meaning in that, I don't understand why they can't. Because they have a life of minority, they already find it very hard to do professional things. We don't understand why they can't find meaning in what they can do. So even if they do try to achieve things that impossible for them to achieve, right? Let's take them at their best, at our worst case scenario. Even if they choose to do so, the sacrifices that they make, I don't understand why government considers that the sacrifices that they make as a burden, right? Because the sacrifices that they make is a choice, is an informed choice that they choose to make. So at least on our side, they have the choice to do so. What happens on their side, right? So when on their side, when people don't have the motivation to do what they want, it means they don't set the goals and dreams for themselves. So what happens now is they tend to follow the things that society sets for them, right? So what the society sets for them is even higher goals, like and very materialistic goals, such as getting a high professional job and etc., right? And these positions are highly inaccessible, and not only that, it's also a burden forced upon them where they are forced to achieve it. And this is why happiness is not achieved on their side. But let's take them at their best case, where on both sides the same job is achieved, the same high-paying job is achieved. On our side, the person does sit down. The person who does achieve this job because of the motivation that he had, because of the meaning that he put into his life, right? So what does this mean? It means when they do achieve this job, they will get a high happiness on a higher scale, on a personal level, right? Because they work for it, they sacrifice for it, and now they have it done. Whereas on their side, even when they achieve it, it's a goal that society set for them, not one that they set for themselves. This means that the happiness that they have is little to none, because it wasn't their motivation that they put in. It was a burden set on them by society. Okay, so what? Yes.
In a world where culturally normative forces like pop culture and media portray the best forms of meaning in movies like Wolf of Wall Street and Slumdog Millionaire, how are you able to ensure individuals aren't influenced and coerced by those forms of coercion?
We think, okay, maybe there is some coercion on our side, but on your side, where there's completely no goal, where you allow society to set it for you, this is when the goals become higher to achieve, and provide less happiness to you on a personal level. So what did we bring to you today? We brought to you a principle that people should decide the meaning of their life for themselves, right? Which is a principle that still stands at the end of the debate, as it was not adopted by the government bench. Secondly, we told you that minorities on both sides, they already face the worst living conditions, whereas on their side, we encourage them to appreciate what they have, to find a meaning in their life. This on our side, where minorities have it better, whereas on their side, they have no hope for living, because that's literally what they tell us, there's no hope in living. Thirdly, we told you that the personal happiness that you get when you achieve something that you strive so hard for is completely irreplaceable, and no benefit on their side can compare to that, because it is an exclusive benefit on our side, where the meaning and the motivation that you put into your work and you finally achieve that personal happiness is something that is irreplaceable. For all those reasons, opposition takes the debate.
Just like Pavi said in his whip speech, life isn't a game. And the reason why life isn't a game is because there are no set rules for you to follow in order to win at life. When you are born, people are dealt with different cards. But if there are rules in the world of government, that means you either win or you lose the moment in which you are born. We need to give people this space in order to interpret and find the best way in order to deal with those very cards and actually have the most meaningful version of life to begin with. I think side of government was very uncomparative in this debate. They had no context from the start of the round, and I think until now we still don't know what the heck their world looks like and how people achieve any form of happiness, any form of motivation in their world. It was unfortunate they didn't say these things. But how were they not comparative, right? So I think a big chunk of the case coming from side of the government was one that was premised upon the fact that life is difficult for individuals. And they say that it's very difficult for people to reach goals if it's determined by society. Then there was some new pop culture thing, and some POI towards my wait, hello, no new method POI, okay? So if you say these things, that it's difficult for people to make decisions in status quo, I think side of opposition was the more comparative theme into this debate to explain why because of these decisions, or because of the strong narrative that the majority already have, we need to create a world where people try to find meaning in their life. Even if that meaning is something which you assume is simple, like drinking or having fun with your friends, but maybe for me, playing PS1, having a sleepover with my friends is something which is so fun already, and that is something which is important, right? I think side of government cannot neglect the importance of these things. Just because you cannot relate to these individual circumstances, it doesn't make their desires any less legitimate or any less justified in the world. But I think today's debate had to expand more from finding meaning, immediately translating to chasing a dream. Because I think that was what side government wanted to debate about. They wanted to say that finding meaning means chasing something. Side of opposition was the only team in today's debate to actually say that it's not just about chasing dreams, but it's also about appreciating what you have. And appreciating what you have is why sacrifices, which this side of the house complain, is very difficult, is very burdensome. We say it's worth it. Because sure, working overtime is difficult. Sure, like coming from really far to come to a debate tournament is difficult. But if your motivations behind those decisions is in order to achieve a better future, is in order to be happy to get a chance to debate, for example, these are legitimate decisions which people make. I think this sufficient mitigation towards the harms the side of government wanted to talk about. There's no response about that in that debate. I think they completely dismissed the idea of appreciating what you have, and especially when we prove to you the context of individuals who are structurally oppressed, the fact that you don't have a lot of access to things like great education or a lot of money, and therefore the little things you have in life are things you need to learn to appreciate. I do not see how you appreciate that in the world of government. So maybe in the worst case scenario in our world, we cannot chase that dream at the end of the day. The child which you try to raise as hard as you can doesn't end up going to Cambridge to become a doctor, but at least this is a person who learns to value family and doesn't only put a price or put meaning on the corporate world itself. Because for some individuals, this is damn difficult for them to get a better life in that circumstance. Especially if government started today's debate by conceding and even making it a whole argument to see how people are structurally disadvantaged and why it's difficult for these people to make decisions and talk about like I think it works against them, right? Because in their world, that'll happen a lot more. The point in which you don't give room for people to self-interpret. The thing with life is that it's often controlled by meaning, but the person who decides that meaning should be the one making those choices. It should be you.
I think we need to push accusations. Notice, in Iman's and Daphne's speech, they never responded as to why individuals should be coerced and forced to face structural forms of barriers which they never consented to deal with. Instead, their alternative was they can find meaning in the very small things in life. But in the same speeches, they said people can find great forms of meaning, and the great forms of sacrifices means that meaning leads to something that's greater and is more appreciated. There is no delineation. We already told you really clearly from Maya's speech that meaning can be easily shaped because it's volatile. The first issue I'll talk about is, are you able to self-define meaning from the very get-go? Really clearly from first, we told you there are multiple forms of culturally normative forces, i.e. media, pop culture, or conversations with friends that actively shapes what your forms of meaning should be. Inherently, all actions of individuals are coerced at the point in which what they see, what they watch, what their friends talk about are things like Slumdog Millionaire and things like Wolf of Wall Street that actively portray that is the best form of meaning in life and that gives you ultimate forms of satisfaction. Even if you agree that in the short term, maybe there are some small forms of meaning which you can have, even if that's the current status quo, it is easily reshaped because it's cultivated by media and it's cultivated by pop culture. Thereby, it is very hard and without no logical analysis as to why you're inherently able to self-define what you want as meaning as well. No reasons to why you should believe the argumentation. The second, on the idea of the small little things. People, at the point which your meaning is to have a conversation with a friend. That conversation with that friend brings up the idea of what that friend's meaning is. When that friend's meaning is to achieve something really great, that inherently coerces you or makes you doubt your idea of what your original meaning is and whether that meaning is truly something that's so great from the very get-go. That means even if you start off at that point in time, you're easily coerced through conversations at the point which all individuals have different sets of meanings because those different sets of meanings sets comparative towards what your current meaning is. You don't find value in small things. Don't cop out from all the structural barriers of discrimination by saying that you can still find happiness in talking to African American friends. Lord, you don't mean that clash on your side of the house. Either, how to recharacterize and re-emphasize what we said outside house, because I'm going to do a lot of accusations at us. We don't want individuals to define what meaning is. We don't want individuals to be coerced by alternate forces. What we want is for individuals to just inherently live life in the way they want it to be. If you don't want to feel stressed, then the alternatives like smoke weed, for example, to smoke and to drink, for example. These are forms of actions which can give you short-term happiness, but don't inherently concretely tell you that there should be meaning in drinking. These are alternative forms of happiness where you don't subscribe to the dogma and to the narrative in status quo that tells you that your world must be one in which you achieve great things. We support that world. Inherently, your side is more coercive because your comparative meaning tells individuals that what they feel is meaning within themselves is not one that's enough, is not one that's justified. You don't get to run away with that in your reply. The last issue is debate, right? Panel, please note that in this entire debate, no argumentation was given on side of opposition as for individuals inherently have the capacity to challenge these forms of structural barriers and achieve what meaning is. We told you levels of analysis like how meaning will always be perpetual in nature. We will constantly coerce, and the high standards that you set for meaning means your expectations are also going to be higher. It's harder for you to achieve it, and you inherently sacrifice and suffer from that. The very nuance we wanted to emphasize on was the amount of sacrifices you made and how that wasn't worth it. The greatest examples in the world in which the father had to cater and he worked hard for his children. In our comparative, we think the father won't find meaning in having children. We think the father won't find meaning in working hard. The father will simply live life the way he wants it to be, the way where he can smoke weed and smoke pot every single day and just be content with that form of happiness within himself, right? In that comparative, we think you are far more likely to age out because your amount of happiness that you get in the long term is when it compiles all your daily happiness, absent of all forms of like struggles, all forms of stress. You should constantly try to prove yourself to your family. You should constantly try to find that meaning. Not every single individual can the privilege to access those meanings, and those are the majority of stakeholders which they fail to deal with. Don't let side opposition get away with it. Continue the case where you never responded to the nuances we gave to you. Very proud to propose.
Hello. Sorry, I'm new ID.